though it only managed to take 4 of the top 32 spots at YCS Denver, it managed to get first place. And I think it's important that we analyze the reasons why that happened, aside from cheating, of course. What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. Now, today I wanted to bring to you a video regarding the events of YCS Denver and why I feel that Infernoid managed to claim victory, even though, you know, against all odds of the top 32, it only had realistically a 12.5% chance of actually winning if you're looking at it purely mathematically. Now, I don't want to get into any of the cheating allegations because there's a lot of controversy surrounding that with people taking 2 battle phases, people stacking, and all these different types of things. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on, let's assume that everything was actually, in terms of technical play and things like that, it was really solid. There wasn't really any mistakes like that. Why did Infernoid take the crown? And I feel there's a couple of reasons that actually contribute to this. So first off, I think the biggest thing that actually played into Infernoid's hands was the fact that Paleozoic had such a big target on its back. I mean, hell, I've even been hyping up Paleozoic as being the best deck going into this format, but if you watch and you actually listen to a lot of the top 32 deck profiles from the event, or any of the footage that they had during the stream, or things like that, a lot of people were saying that Paleozoic was the deck to beat going into YCS Denver, and it definitely showed, because if you're looking at the side decks and things like that, people are maxing out on cards like Denko Sekka, they have their Twin Twisters ready, they have their Royal Decrees, hell, Paul Cooper was maining fucking Photon Cerberus, a card I didn't think we were gonna see, like, ever in competitive play. So there's so much hate for Paleozoic because it's had so much competitive success. It's won several YCSs in a format that's basically been dominated by Zodiac and all these different things, that I feel that people were so focused on beating Paleo that Infernoid was almost an afterthought. And obviously Zodiac is still on the radar as well, and Infernoid isn't a bad deck by any means. I was considering it tied for the second best deck of the format, so it definitely is still an incredibly powerful deck. And we've seen Billy Brake pilot Infernoid, getting first place and getting second place at back-to-back YCSs when he competed, so it's definitely a deck to fear. But because Paleo was just so in the spotlight as being the deck to kill, people weren't really focused on Infernoid, and this really showed in the side decks and the mentalities of players as well. Because as I was watching these deck profiles, I was noticing that there wasn't a lot of hate for Infernoids. There was a couple people maining cards specifically for the matchup in their side deck. So there was one player maybe playing Necro Valley. I think one player was playing Imperial Iron Wall, which in my opinion isn't very good anyway, because it's easily outed by a Trident or anything like that, or even a Decatron for that matter. But cards like Artifact Lancia, which is probably one of the best cards in that matchup, were completely devoid from people's side decks going into Denver. And as a card like that can almost just shut down an Infernoid player's turn, the fact that a card like that was absent from the side decks of a lot of players, especially a lot of the players that topped the event, goes to tell me that people really weren't focused on Infernoids as a whole for the event. And another contributing factor as well is because people were so afraid of the 60-card Paleozoic deck, as well as 60-card Infernoid decks, because that grass looks greener is essentially a win condition if you're not playing a 60-card deck itself. People have been playing 50 or even 60-card variants of Zodiac to counteract that grass looks greener and give them a couple of dead cards in their deck that if they're playing the 60-card mirror, that it's just going to have them, they have the chance of just having completely dead cards in that matchup. But the thing that I feel is at fault with that logic is, especially if you're playing a 60-card variant of a Zodiac deck, as an example, going up against the 60-card Infernoid, I feel that the 60-card Infernoid deck is still going to perform better than the 60-card Zodiac deck, simply because of the way the deck functions. I mean, you're having to break the inherent consistency of your Zodiac deck to counteract one card that they only have like a 10 to 15% chance to have anyway, so it really, to me, says that there's a lot more going on here, and people were almost overthinking this and really trying to stop it, and it really gave Infernoid the opportunity to kind of show and really just kind of do its thing for the most part. And speaking of Zodiac, Infernoid has a very good Zodiac matchup because of its ability to banish cards like Rapier out of the graveyard. I know that Zodiac is now not as reliant on Rapier now that Rapier is down to 2, but even if you still banish 1 rat, people now, the combos just fall apart. You know, all the fusion substitute combos and all these different things, they really just get shattered by the inherent abilities of the Infernoids. And then you've got cards like Onunku and Deviati that can pretty much just play and nuke through back row and all these different types of things that I really feel the inherent power of a 60-card Infernoid deck can really just power through a 60-card Zodiac deck or any other 60 or 50-card variant as well. Now, looking at some of the other matchups, obviously Paleozoic was the deck to beat, and a lot of people were kind of focused on that. And being Paleozoic as the deck to beat, Infernoid has probably one of the best Paleozoic matchups ever because it can banish the Paleozoics out of the graveyard and interrupt their chains, preventing them from accruing advantage and pretty much advancing their game state to the point where it matters. And a lot of the trap cards, looking at the Paleozoic deck, they really don't matter all that much in the Infernoid match. All these cards that the Paleozoic players play, like Canadia and the Lost Winds and all these different types of things, they're more specifically tailored towards the Zodiac matchup because they have a much more potent effect. Where against the Infernoids, it really doesn't matter a whole lot because even if you Lost Wind an Infernoid, like, you can just bring it back, and then you got Fairy Tale Snow, which is basically just the most, like, resilient, like, unkillable card ever. There's just all these things that Paleozoic have against Infernoid that make it dead, make their cards dead, and then Infernoids inherently just have a really good way to punish the Paleozoic players as well, that if you're going in a 60-card Paleo versus 60-card Infernoid matchup, it kind of, to me, looks like the Infernoid player has the upper hand, even if 60-card Paleo is considered the better deck, which I still think it is. Now, when you're looking at this top 32 breakdown, there's 11 Zodiacs, and that's a lot. But another thing that stood out to me as well was the 7 Metal Foes that actually topped as well. And that's really interesting to me too, because Metal Foe Zodiac versus the 60-card Infernoid deck, the cool thing is Metal Foe Zodiac can actually play 60 cards and doesn't really hurt its consistency too much with cards like Baboon and the whole pendulum summoning mechanic in general. It can really fill its slots with a ton of consistency cards that don't really affect its consistency too much, but it allows it to play the 60 cards and not lose to a blowout card like That Grass Looks Greener. And I would say that that's probably the worst matchup out of everything they have to play. I mean, when you're talking about a meta of Paleozoic, Zodiac, and Metal Foes probably your most difficult matchup, quote, quote, because, I mean, it's not an unwinnable matchup, but compared to your other matchups, you know, that's probably the hardest thing you're going to have to face. Now, one other thing I do want to mention is Future Fusion, and I know I've made a video on this card, and I've been talking about it a lot, but something occurred to me while watching the tournament that didn't really occur to me till then, and that is the fact that Future Fusion, in a way, is a version of That Grass Looks Greener that you can successfully resolve in a 60-card mirror. Now, we know that in a grass mirror, that card is just completely dead altogether, but Future Fusion, because of the way the card functions, it actually still works, and I think that gives, again, Infernoid just this inherent advantage to really just blow out their opponent, even though Grass might be a dead card. If they happen to draw the 1 of Future Fusion, and they happen to resolve it, which, as we've seen, is not that difficult to do because you really just care about turn 1 more than anything else. If you get the Tiara on turn 2, that's just a fucking bonus, and you are pretty much guaranteed to win anyway. But I really feel that Future Fusion's resurgence in the meta, now that it's come back off the ban list, really helped take Infernoid over the top and really helped contribute to the success of the deck. So, overall, I think the fact that, you know, we have Future Fusion back, the fact that Paleozoic was really the deck to beat for Denver and people kind of brushed Infernoid off to the side, and the fact that, you know, there's all these 60-card decks now and people weren't even really siding for Infernoid, I really feel that ultimately that's what contributed to the deck's success, and it's really just going to continue to do so because Infernoid is a very powerful deck when piloted by the right player, and it's going to continue to fuck shit up for the rest of this format. But guys, those are just my opinions on what I think about why Infernoids won the YCS. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I know there's some silly comments that are going to be about, you know, not being able to destroy future fusion kind of helps and things like that, and that's obvious, but I'm really just wanting to focus on what really was at the heart of what contributed to Infernoid's success, because I feel like by doing that, we can analyze that and help further ourselves to become better and help beat the meta. So guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and also be sure to back me on Patreon, because just by pledging $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.